Hi, Vince. Let me see what I'm reading this. Vincent Torrena, 21. Thank you for joining. I probably didn't pronounce that correctly, but my apologies to you. But thank you for joining anyway. This is, as the title says, just a lazy afternoon, summer afternoon scope here from my home on eastern Long Island. And I'm using it to test out the iPhone feature. For some reason I'm having problems recording live Periscope broadcasts on my, saving them to the camera roll on the iPhone. Some days it works, some days it doesn't work. So we're doing another test right now to see if this one works. Thank you for joining, Jose, 1430. Welcome here. Good afternoon from eastern Long Island, New York. 60 some odd miles, 100 kilometers east of New York City on this beautiful, beautiful summer afternoon here on the east end of Long Island. Temperatures in the mid 80s Fahrenheit. Mostly 99% blue skies, a few minor clouds. And a beautiful sea breeze now coming out of the south-southeast, which helps us out here east of New York City because the breeze is coming off the Atlantic Ocean. So it tends to cool things down out here on the east end of Long Island as compared to New York City. And we're watching our purple martins fly here. We fledged 3 purple martin families today. For those of you who don't know what purple martins are or would like to know, North America's largest swallow. And we host colonies of these birds here every season. Let me just swing this way and I'll show you. If I zoom in, I'll show you one of the purple martin houses. Welcome to your first day on Periscope. James XXX11. Welcome. All right, let me zoom in on that. And you see that white birdhouse complex with the green roof. Red. How did I get red out of that? Green. That's for purple martins, North America's largest swallow. So they nest in that housing complex, plus a few others I have here. And they raise their new purple martin babies there. So what's been happening today? And you hear the chirping above me now. They've been getting the little guys out of the nests. So the little baby purple martins are making their first flights today with the parent birds. So they get them to make their first flight, and then they'll fly around the area as a family unit. Let me zoom back out now. Here's where I always have problems with my iPhone. Pinching back out. Okay, there we go. Practice makes perfect. So the bird chirping we hear overhead are our purple martins flying around with their new baby purple martins. And they'll do that for the next 10 days or so here, 10 to 14 days. And then, unfortunately, sadly, nature calls, and the birds all start their migration back to South America, which takes about 2.5 months to get back to South America. Primarily Brazil. They go back to Brazil, and from this northern latitude, 40.8 latitude north, they would go to a comparable latitude south of the equator, 41 degrees south latitude. where they would spend the season down there, which is the Brazilian summer, but our winter, obviously. Why do they do that, you say? Why do they make like a 9,000, almost 10,000 mile round trip every year? Well, they're following the food chain, because martins, as most swallows, are aerial insectivores. In other words, they're eating insects on the fly. They're taking insects out of the air. So obviously we don't really have any insects in the air here in North America in the wintertime. So the birds migrate back and forth between South America and North America. But they're considered to be a North American bird, North American swallow, because this is where they breed. This is where they raise the next generation of purple martins, in housing supplied by human beings east of the Rocky Mountains, almost exclusively. I'm going to go out on a limb and say like 99.9% of all purple martin cavities east of the Rocky Mountains now are houses, cavities provided by us. And this has been going on here since colonial days with the colonists coming here, but it started before that with Native Americans who used to dry out gourds and hollow them out and cut an opening in them and hang them up, and the birds would nest inside the gourds. And of course, when Europeans first came to the east coast of America, they saw this and copied that. Although we like to build houses, right? So we started building houses for the birds that kind of looked like the houses that we were building for ourselves in those colonial days. So that's the story here on the East Coast. The purple martin swallow, North America's largest swallow, nests in housing provided by us. So our guys started arriving here around, well, nominally around April 15th. The first birds show up returning back from South America. And then again, nominally by August 15th, 99% of them have already started their journey back to South America. So it's a short season, 4 months for us, but it's worthwhile. They are eating tons and tons of insects out of the sky every summer, so it helps us out in that regard. Welcome to you. Welcome Airborne 257 on your first day of Periscope. Welcome to Eastern Long Island, New York, 100 kilometers, 62 miles east of Midtown Manhattan. Thank you for those hearts, folks. I really appreciate that. This, as the title says, is a lazy afternoon summer scope. Well, thank you, Sue. I appreciate that. This is looking south. Let me get up out of my chair so the deck railing doesn't interfere with the photo, with the view, and I'll show you what we're looking at. All right, bear with me. Have to get out of a lounge chair here where I'm relaxing. Push myself up. There we go. Now we don't have the deck railing showing us. This is essentially looking to the south toward the bay, and I'm about 1.75 miles north of the Atlantic Ocean here on this hazy summer day. That is full zoom. If you can see that green ribbon of land from left to right across the picture, that's the barrier beach on the other side of the bay, known as Fire Island along the south shore of Long Island. So if you do, no, I'm not. I'm just holding the iPhone in my hand right now. But with the Periscope live broadcast, I do have stabilization turned on. Well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that comment. And this is one of the reasons why I prefer using Periscope for live broadcasts rather than YouTube Live. Because Periscope has the algorithm where you can activate video stabilization while you're doing the live broadcast. YouTube doesn't give us that option. However, in the post-broadcast editing, you can then stabilize a YouTube broadcast, which I have done many times, but it's just not the same. All right, so that's max zoom with my iPhone 7 Plus in the landscape mode, looking over to the Barrier Beach Fire Island, and that's about 1.75 miles away, and on the other side of that is the Atlantic Ocean. So we're getting this beautiful cooling breezes now from the south-southwest off of the bay and off of the ocean. And that's what keeps the temperatures out here on eastern Long Island probably 10 to 15 degrees cooler than if we were in Midtown Manhattan in New York City. So if you see folks scoping from New York City, Marty 888 NYC, one of the premier scopers from the city, now he's always in 85, 90 degree weather in Manhattan, the heat island. And out here, I'm in now between about 85 degrees today on a hot day. Okay, thank you for that comment too, and I'll tell you about that. Let me zoom back out though, so we steady this picture. Now here's where I always have trouble, pinching back down from max zoom back to there. Yes, on the other side of the Barrier Beach over there is the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, the sound quality, I appreciate that comment you just made. I have an external mic plugged into the iPhone with, what do they call it, Rode mic? And it has a little mitten on it, wind mitten. So a noise suppression, sound suppression mitten on the microphone itself. So that cuts down on wind noise and things like that. Thank you. A little trick I learned. I'm tempted to spend the $60 or so for a set of Apple AirPods, do they call them? Stick them in your ear, and it's a Bluetooth connection, wireless Bluetooth connection for microphone. Maybe the next time. Yeah, earbuds, right. Oh, there goes a jet plane overhead. That's what you hear. There's going into the nearby MacArthur Airport here. It's about 20 miles away from us in the middle of Suffolk County. So they come in, Southwest Airlines and others, they come in on their low flight patterns, sometimes right over us. Yeah, the wireless ones, whatever they're called. But next time I'm in the city, I'll head to the Apple store and check that out. Maybe worth the investment there. But this works okay. I'm plugged into the Lightning connector on my iPhone with the Rode mic clipped to my shirt and with the wind sock, the wind mitten on it, noise suppression mitten. All right, here we are again, folks. Right, this is just a general view of the area. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that suggestion. We'll look into that also. Prime Day or Prime Card, actually. Okay, I was hoping more of the purple martins would fly over with their family units now, the parent birds with the clutches of 5 or 6 birds that they've gotten out of each cavity today, and they're in the general area right now. Usually what happens on fledging day, and not all of them come out of the nests on the same day, you know, it's spread over a few days, but the parent birds start to try to get the baby birds out just around sunrise. Once the sun comes up, and one by one they'll come out of the nests. And then by late morning, maybe 5 hours later, the last of the brood will be out, and they'll take to flight. Yeah, I have. I'll show you those right now. I was showing those a little earlier. Let me zoom in again. I have 3 colonies here. Here are 2 of the 3. Okay. Those are wooden houses I built many years ago. And there's a bot. So somebody asked a legitimate question, and then you know, the backup stuff gets in on it. So we built these houses many years ago out of cedar, and then of course underneath each house complex I have 4 plastic gourds, replicas of natural gourds. Let's pinch down again, and I'll walk down that way a little bit and show you a little closer view of that, all right? Let's take a walk down here, and hopefully we won't lose our signal here. I'm on my Wi-Fi link in the house because I have the Apple Airport Extreme in the house, and I have an Apple repeater router sitting in the front of the house, so it should hold up. We should be able to get out around 150 feet away from the house and not lose our signal. Since somebody graciously asked about the purple martins, well, we'll show you what's going on down here. Continue the broadcast this way. This is looking to the east, folks. So there in the wide view you see my 3 purple martin colonies. 2 off to the right and 1 off to the left. There's a total of about 40, let's see, 14, 28, 38, 40, 42 nesting cavities this year. Each house has 10 wood house cavities, compartments, and then 4 plastic gourds hanging underneath. And I would say this year we were over 90% occupancy. Wow. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So the purple martins, the families are now fledging, the little ones. It started a day or 2 ago. It was a late season this year. The cooler weather earlier this late spring, and it slowed the season down. The birds started arriving here 7 to 10 days later than nominally that they arrive in late April. But now they're bursting out of there. Oh, well, thank you for letting me know that. So in other words, Periscope is featuring this? Oh, Lee, you're welcome. You're welcome glad to hear that. Glad you enjoyed watching that, because I enjoy doing those. Long Island Railroad trains. The Cannonball last Friday night, and then Sunday afternoon I was doing a couple of the Long Island Railroad trains carrying the weekend visitors back to the city. Oh, well, hey, that's Sue, that's really great. I did not know that. I didn't know I was in that league. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Of course I do. You were mentioning that because you said you wanted to make a visit here to the USA, and you were asking about Orlando. I didn't know anything. I don't know anything about trains down there, but I hope you were able to do some research with Amtrak. Do Google Amtrak and get some information for yourself on trains, rail travel from New York City to Florida. Yeah, it's AMTRAK. Just Google AMTRAK, Amtrak, which is the quasi-government national railway, passenger railway system. It's partially funded by the government, or maybe 50%, whatever, and and the other half by fares. Oh, okay. So you had your Purple Martins earlier than us because obviously your temperatures get warmer than earlier in the season than they do out here on the East Coast, on eastern Long Island. Over the decades, and the nominal arrival date for the Scouts here is April 15th. And then the bulk of the flock starts arriving between April 15th and May 1st, May 15th. And then they hold off on the breeding season until the weather really warms up here, which usually isn't until the 1st of June. I am retired. Yeah, robins I'm seeing more and more so-called winter robins. They spend all year round here now. They do a number on a holly tree we had in the yard here, holly bush, that ate all the red berries this past December. Okay, so there's the 3 Purple Martin houses, and the birds are flying overhead now with the newly fledged baby Purple Martins. So family groups are flying overhead. And as I mentioned a little while ago, once the babies are fledged, they will stay together as a family unit here in this area from between 10 to 14 days. And the parent birds teach the little ones how to be Purple Martins, how to catch insects on the fly. And then the migration urge hits them, and then they start to leave us, flying south back to South America along the East Coast here, probably down the Florida Peninsula, over Cuba, over the Caribbean to the northern coast of South America. And of course, where you say the Pittsburgh area, a lot of those birds probably follow the Mississippi River flyway back down to the New Orleans area. And they split up there. They either follow the Gulf Coast around all the way down Mexico and Central America, or some of them actually make non-stop flights across the Gulf of Mexico to Yucatan and then go that way. Pretty interesting. High endurance little birds, these swallows. Thanks for the hearts. Okay, just let me be quiet down here for a minute. Let nature do the talking. Okay, there's our Purple Martins flying around. Mother, father, babies, chirping, chirping, chirping. So these are 2 families that fledged this morning. And I had a rough count of 5 babies per clutch, 5 little new purple martins. And you can tell the new ones, they're flying their first day here, because the babies, they have the stubby tails compared to the adult birds. Body-wise, they're about the same size as the adult birds, but tail structure-wise, they have stubby tails. So that's how we tell the difference. And also the noise they make. The adult birds are going chirp, chirp, and the males call. And the little ones, it's more like a subdued chirrup, chirrup. I sound like an expert, right? But I've been doing this for over 35 years, hosting purple martins here. So I think we know a few odds and ends, a few facts about it. The other thing, and purple martin people who know this, it's called site fidelity. If the mature birds who breed successfully in these houses and other houses, they survive the round trip to Brazil and back, then they will come right back to the same site for another breeding season. In fact, they'll even, banding studies have shown that they come back to the same houses. Now the new ones who are born here right now and fledged here today and over the next few days, first year birds they're called, they will return to the general area, not necessarily the same houses here that we have here. And that's by nature's design. Certain part of the flock that's here right now are called the bachelor birds. They're usually the second year males, the ones that were born in the general area last summer. Second year males have returned from Brazil, and they haven't made it up, but they play a role in the colonies here, and their role is to try to chase the little ones, the new ones, away from the place where they were born, so that it's not imprinted on the little birds to return to the same exact location. And this is to spread the birds over a wider area. That's why I say, people ask me about starting purple martin colonies. Patience is the biggest thing. If you put up a purple martin house, conditions being what they are, it may take a few years to get the first birds to nest. But they will eventually. And then if they have a successful breeding season, they will return to the same site. And then the generations that follow will do the same thing. So that's how you establish purple martin colonies and how you maintain them over there. Well, the parents pick up whatever shell fragments they can and everything, used for grit for the babies, right, to help digestion. Yes. Around here it's usually like remnants of crab shells. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. Hey, we're talking about that subject. The birds are out on the end of my floating dock, and the seagulls have been having a feast out there with blue claw crabs. They grab the crabs out of the water and they come and they eat on the end of the dock. So now you have these dried blue claw crab shells out on the end of the dock. And the birds are out there using some of that crab shell remnant. Yeah, they put mud in. They make their nests. They put a lot of mud in here. I usually have one little area that I keep moist so that they can fly down and nearby the houses. And the other thing we do, we start them off in the spring with nesting material. Let me walk down here and hopefully we're going to keep the signal. Give me a heads up, folks, if we start losing signal or break up or whatever. Okay, we'll show you about this and we'll describe this. Get a little closer to these guys. I purchase a bale of dried pine needles from Purple Martin Conservation Association every year. It usually lasts me more than one season, but that left over. But anyway, oh, you did that. You were able to attract them with the recordings. Okay. I put piles of dried pine needles in here. Okay. It's much longer than this. This is just the remnants of it. And the birds fly down to this platform and they'll take out strands of pine needles back up to the houses to refurbish their nests. Now look at this. I showed this the other day and it's still here. Here's a butterfly that one of the martins caught. It was on the ground, so I put it up in here, but nobody ever came back to get it to feed a little one. But anyway, it's there. So we start these birds off by putting the dried pine needles inside each cavity. I give them a couple of handfuls in there, right up to the opening of the gourd, we'll say. And then the martins themselves will fly down to these trays where I put additional pine needles, and they'll fly up to their nest to make their circular nests, refurbish their nests. They will take up beaks full of mud to strengthen the nest. So we try to keep one little area, a corner of the yard here, moist where they can get to some wet soil or mud. Wow. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for your kindness. I appreciate that. Now look at these three sitting up here. What we have is, let me think about this. We have a male who just landed on the right, ASY male. He's the all purple color. And we have a couple of females, and then we have a second year male in the middle there. No, he's on the left. The second year male was on the left. In the middle was a female, because they have the markings underneath the tail feathers. All right, let's see what else we can see while we're here. I always put predator guards here on the bottoms of the poles. It's nothing more than baked enamel sheet metal. You just install that and it keeps feral cats and raccoons from going up the pole. And this is what I call a fallout shelter. There's one on each post, each of the 3 posts. I built these years ago, and what we do, if one of the baby birds crash lands on his first flight attempt, And they're fluttering along the ground here. I try to get them right away with a crab net, fine mesh crab net, and a piece of paper towel, and I cover his head so he doesn't see me. And I lift them up and I put them in these fallout shelters. So the baby bird scurries right in here, you know, right to the back of that thing, because they go to the deepest part of a cavity. And then a few minutes later they'll come out and they'll sit on the railing here, and then the parents will come down and entice it to try to make its second attempt to fly. So that's how we try to save the ones that crash land on their first flight before the seagulls or the hawks could swoop in to grab them off the lawn and make a meal of them. And let's see, what else am I showing here? These houses are winch cranked up and down. I'm not going to do that now, but you lower the whole house complex with this brake winch mechanism here. Now let's look over here. I'll try to walk slowly so I don't get jerky video motion for folks. Come on, birds, hang around for a while. I want to zoom in on you and show folks what you're doing up there. Well, they're coming in. There's another male just landed there, and he's got a moth in his beak. So he's still feeding his brood inside one of the compartments. There, he just went up to the top shelf. Oh, is that? No, that's another one. That's a female just landed up there. The mature males are the all purple color or black, but it's really an iridescent purple. And the female mature birds are the gray-breasted birds. So that's how you tell the difference between the mature males and females. The second year females also have a gray breast, as do the males, but the males have more purple blotches in their feathers. And then their second full winter in Brazil, that's when they'll molt to the true purple color. So we have a combination here of mature birds nesting, in other words, after second year birds, and the immature birds, which is their first breeding season. Look at this. Look how they come right back to the house, and I'm standing. We're all watching this, folks. We're no more than 8 feet away from all these birds sitting up there. All right? Oh, chirp, chirp all the way. Come on, you can go in your house. Show us what's going on. There you go. Come on, Mom, take that moth into your house, into your compartment. All right, I'll back off a little bit. They know me, but they would prefer that I be a little bit further away before they go inside the cavity. These two on the left, now there's 3 up there. The 2 on the left are mature males. The other one looks like a second year female. There she goes. Mom just landed on the first lower porch. She's waiting to go inside and feed a little one in there. All right, let me back off and see if I can see this. Oh, these little heads peeking out of the gourds. There we go. There's a couple of babies. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. Show you that. All right, see the two little heads sticking out? Those are baby purple martins inside that gourd, waiting to be fed, waiting for mom and dad to come by with a juicy moth in its beak, or a dragonfly or something of that size now. And I would say these are little guys who will probably fledge tomorrow or the next day. They're within 1 to 2 days of leaving the nest, making their first flight. And so they've been in there for at least since the eggs hatch. Oh, look at that. Dad just flew in and he's going to feed them. Takes 28 days from the time that the eggs hatch to the time that the babies leave the nest. Okay, come on. Feed him there, Dad. Shove that moth down his throat. Show us how that's done. All right, if I took a tape measure right now, people, I'm less than 12 feet from where that action took place. So they let me stand here watching what's going on. They're not the least bit intimidated. That's why the experts claim that these birds are considered almost semi-domesticated, because they depend upon human-supplied housing, and they want our presence here as a buffer against predators. Now look at these two on the end. That's I'm trying to see if we see any stub-tailed birds that are babies here that are already out. Okay, let me back out from that now. I hope people were able to see that. Pretty busy afternoon here. Fledging our purple martins. And there's Mr. Swan out here, mute swan. I don't know where the female is right now, but she's not that far away. Unfortunately, they did not have a clutch of eggs this year. Sometimes this time of year you'll see the male and female swan with their line of cygnets behind them. 4 to 6 or more baby swans swimming by with the parents. All right, this is a mute swan, imported obviously from Europe. They're not natural to the United States. All right, everybody, thank you very much for joining. I'm going to back off a little bit, and then we'll end the broadcast here for now. Thank you again. Take a look at the replays. And I have to see now, this was also my test to see if the save to camera roll feature is actually working today. So take care, everybody. Good to see you, folks. Thank you for all the comments and all the hearts. And we'll be back on the air again soon.